the tower as of yet. Chris flashes in. They're looking for more twisted advance. Paranoia on the backline, but the shockwave is absolutely massive. Xiahu finds 4. Blast code out from Weiwei, but he goes the wrong Weiwei indeed. Xiahu takes the kill. Hung dies as well. Meanwhile, Scout is getting chased in by Chris. Scout flashes, but the winter's bite is icy and cold. Scout on the backline down to half HP. Already GALA's dead. He dived in and he died for it. An incredible Gnar. Breeze catches LNG out of the air and slams them into the wall.
Breathe goes 6-0 on Gnar this Worlds, and it's Weibo on match point. And Jat, you were just telling me I have watched that last fight over and over and over. What do you want to show us?
It was a banger. Let's pull it up right away because we have one team composition that spends the whole game scaling. Just keep it paused just for a second. So much of it is about GALA and Ari trying to get on Light and Xiahu, and it's very important for Weibo when they actually get a fight, which was so hard for them to actually create, is that Light and Xiahu stay apart from each other. Let's roll this fight right now and watch the moment that GALA goes in. It needs to be a one-shot for this fight to work, but when the original engage goes on to Xiaohu's Orianna, they land the charm, they think they can one-shot, he flies in, but he is keep rolling it, able to get the stopwatch off right after that charm. It stalls, GALA falls, nobody is on Light, so Light can fire free onto Scout, and it ends up being a 5-0.
That arrow as well, the first time didn't even catch that, but that straight on the teleport meant that they were a member down, and that could have been the difference maker in the damage.
Yeah, and also people might think that the sign I held up as we came, like when in doubt Baron, question mark, was sarcastic.
Let's keep rolling it again.
Yeah, as we keep rolling the fight over, because I think when you look at these two, look at these two compositions and the way that they work, this is so well designed to deal with the dive coming out of the LNG comp, right? So this is, the fight does not get split up the way that LNG would have wanted. And yeah, the big Gnar on the backside. But again, every time that they try to go in, Weibo's composition has so many answers for what they want to do. And I know, Chronicler, you were talking as we were watching this backstage. You're like, wow, they're learning what
they're learning how it works.
But they're learning what Maokai does in real time. Because, like, let's take a look at all of the drafts from both of these teams, because I think it's really interesting what each of them have wanted to do, right? So we have the Nocturne and the Ahri, right, with the Jhin for setup. For LNG, again, we have this Jax, Sejuani, Yone combo. And then again, on red side, the Kai'Sa, Nocturne, and Jax. Like, all of them really, really want dive. Weibo has had such great answers for this. Like this entire comp, Ori, Maokai, like everything, just the Braum was doing so much work. And it feels like both of these teams have come out and been like, we have exactly what we want. Now we just want to play it out.
And if it wasn't for that incredible mid-game sequence where LNG did take back control, right? Because that's when they did find the, we have way more global presence. We have the ability to dive on top of you. When Weibo wasn't set up, that could have been the game ender. But instead, I think that we're seeing what we said at top of the day, which is specifically, there have been, throughout this tournament, it started out being very teamfight focused, then we moved to dive, and now Weibo is just drafting preemptively counter dive, and LNG just keep running into it.
And that's the cool thing. Shox mentioned themes about good and bad trade deals. To me, the theme is one team thinks diving is the best way to play, the other team thinks absorbing the dive is the best way to play. And honestly, I don't actually know what the correct answer is because of how close these last few games have been.
The Olympics were last month. You got to stop diving, okay?
Hey.
I want to look at something as well, because let's talk about Xiahu just a little bit, right?
A goat.
His goat. Jat, take a look at this top lane team fight where the goat is blinded.
He is.
But gets his ult off on, I think, 3 to 4 people. He gets a triple kill. I mean,
absolutely. It gave them a lot of early momentum in this game. And if you watch this, it was an attempted dive onto a Mega Gnar, which is already a bit questionable. But the biggest thing here is even when Nocturne flies in, Xiahu just flies out with the ultimate and catches 4 people.
You also see before this fight even starts, as that we see that the Ori ult go through, they landed the Ashe arrow again. Like, you wonder why they keep drafting this Ashe. Light has been so good with isolating people who want to dive in on top of you.
I think that was the first arrow they hit, and then I think the second, because a lot went flying, the second arrow he hit was the one in the final fight. And guess what? If those two are the ones you hit, then who
perfect.
cares?
And the coach reaction was hilarious after that, by the way, from the Weibo camp, because you see there everybody's happy. We were thinking, did they just have a huge discussion of with Xiahu if he was allowed to get Orianna, if he was going to do good, and he's like, no, he actually did well. Who
That was
knows?
shocking.
Something is causing him to go through it.
Yeah, it's true. Also, about Xiahu, we just got Liam from our stats team to catch up. He's now 5th in Worlds kills, passing Perks.
Wow.
He is 2nd in MSI plus Worlds kills, passing Caps as well. And he is tied for the 2nd most wins at Worlds with Deft.
And also, Worlds is his worst tournament.
So
He's a
true.
3-time MSI champion in 2 different roles, and historically has been the guy who comes to Worlds and falls flat on his face, and he's definitely trying to change that narrative. Made it all the way to finals last year. Like this team, they're shaky the whole time.
They are.
They're shaky the whole time, but they're up 2-1.
That's how they get ya.
I think you're also seeing why, right? Like we talked about that LNG 3-0 in regional qualifier right after Weibo. We're coming out of facing BLG in the finals. This is why, and some of these like responses to what they've had to LNG, what LNG wants to do, this is why a lot of people who watch the LPL were like, you know what? Weibo should be the 3rd seed. Like they are technically 4th seed, but we've seen them and we think that they could be the 3rd seed. There you see the dip. That's a nice LPL gold graph right there.
Even the game that LNG won, Weibo got that exact trajectory. They just weren't able to close it out in that one, right? We had the worst trade deals that I've seen, at least in this quarterfinals. But if that hadn't happened, we could have actually been looking at a Weibo, which I think is the one thing that coming into today, none of us would have expected.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And look at it from the other side, right? This is an LPL versus LPL match. We talked about the team kills earlier, how the higher seed often loses out in these. But for Scout and LNG, what a blow it would be.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, Scout, he made it here. We weren't even sure if he'd be able to make it here. He's such a massive part of this team. He and Xiahu have faced each other so much. These two teams know each other so well. And we'll see if Weibo can close it out now.
We'll see indeed, or if Scout can bring us to a Game 5. What do you guys think?
I very much hope so, Afia. I'm going to be honest. Give me 5 games. It's a quarterfinal. Let's get these quarters kicked off correctly.
We were talking about it just before we went live, and it's so entertaining to have 2 teams that seem to excel in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
Because it makes them so evenly matched at various points in the game, right? And we see this constant back and forth. You have to imagine that the relationship that so many of the players have, we talked about it, former teammates, rivalries, the organization's history, like these players are so familiar with one another. You have to feel like that all of it is now coming out into this series. Let's see if LNG can bring us to Game 5.
Or it could just be blue side wins every game.
Could also just be that.
Weibo won, LNG won, Weibo won. Now we'll see if LNG can do the same. Take us to Silver Scrapes. Kalista and Skarner banned away by LNG. Alongside that, the Rumble removed by Weibo.
All right, will we get some variation here? The Stylus once again still sticking up there. Scout, of course, was quite good with that already early on in the tournament versus DK. No more Gnar, though. Breathe has crazy Gnar stats. They flashed it after that game, further improving. So no more Gnar option, at least for him, for side lane.
Weibo doing it again. They're willing to take the Yone for Aurora trade. I mean, you mentioned it, Medic. While Scout did not die in his Yone game, I would argue that his impact overall wasn't as much felt as Zika's Jax.
True.
Which makes me wonder if Weibo will look to take it away. Perhaps Breathe will look to prioritize it. I think it can be great into the Yone as well, and a very effective denial pick.
For a second, I heard the crowd here in Paris go, oh, and then realize it's never going to be Fiora. Instead, it is the Jax for Breathe alongside Aurora for Xiahu.
I mean, people, since Yone became such a big topic at the tournament so early on, people were then cooking up, you know, the lane counters and stuff, and getting excited for stuff like Fiora. But you have to take the Aurora on this side, and then you pair it with the Jax for 2 very, very strong solo laners for yourselves for the side of Weibo. So honestly, I think that this trade actually looks quite good for them. It is, of course, going to be at the cost of your jungle power. The Sejuani, as we mentioned last time, always supplementing the Yone plus the Renekton here, the double melee soul laners, the go-to for skirmishing on the top side of the map.
I want to remind people, Game 2 was very much in Weibo's hands. If they hadn't extended on those Nexus Tower pushes, we could have been at a 3-0. And this top side, once again, very similar from what we saw from LNG in that game.
That is a key takeaway, though.
Yep.
The Ezreal to steal away from GALA, because GALA was the one that did the most damage in that game for LNG, and Light also an exceptional Ezreal player.
And now you can ban away Kai'Sa and Ashe. And as I say that, Kai'Sa's already banned away. Wouldn't be surprised to see LNG ban things like the Braum out. With this melee topside, Braum is the last champion that you want to play up against. They could also consider banning away the Poppy.
Or Renata also, like
Renata
all these things that are hard for you to play melee into, but there are so many of them.
It might be another Amumu angle, by the way, Kobe. Like, it is a very AP-heavy topside. Merc Treads will gain a lot of value for sure, but we saw how effective Tarzan alongside Xiahu could be with this Aurora Amumu combo. But there's that Ashe as well, so in terms of the AD carry pool, Weibo seemed to look very happy.
Definitely agree there. All right, LNG, what's the thing you least want to play against when you're running triple melee topside that's looking to create plays?
I feel like Renata would be quite a good ban here from LNG. Get rid of something that can really stop you going in for those engages. Instead, they'll remove the Leona. And now Weibo can leave support for last, can pick jungle. They already know they're playing into that Sejuani. Or
and they take the Rakan. That should have been obvious. They've been so concerned about Han getting his hands on it. And it's also a great pairing alongside the Ezreal. Great backline threat, good follow-up alongside the Jax. And it also leaves them open to get a full picture of what they're playing into before locking in their jungler. Now, bear in mind, Jarvan could also be a solid option here, given that Jhin won't have the mobility. But I do feel like that they'll lean more towards the Amumu.
There are a couple of them, yeah. The Jarvan, the Amumu, the Maokai as well still available. A lot of the things though, because you're, like you said earlier, you don't want to give them too high value on Merc Treads.
There's the Jhin and the Nautilus locked in for LNG. They have a great team-fighting composition. They can assassinate someone. They've got good pick as well with the hooks, with the Glacial Prison from Sejuani. The Maokai, as you say, locked in now for Weibo.
All right. I mean, you're sacrificing a lot of skirmishing power. Sejuani with this top side, very potent in the 2v2s, 3v3s, and Tarzan was getting bullied in the previous game. But in terms of team fighting strength, Weibo have a lot of tools.
I know the majority of people probably want to see this push to a Game 5, but I do prefer the Weibo draft in this one, especially the change in AD carries. It is a little bit of a change, but stealing away the Ezreal and then GALA back on this Jhin, I don't know. That one's a little bit risky. People love to hate on the Jhin and the low damage sometimes. We'll see if they can make it count. It does have, the long range to be able to follow up on a lot of these melee forward-facing plays, and so LNG do have the potential to be explosive. But I kind of believe in the Weibo side.
LNG were knocked out of the quarterfinals last year by T1. Weibo qualified to the semifinals, but everyone thought, there's no way they'll beat PLG. There's no way. And then they made the impossible reality. They're looking to replicate and usurp expectations once again, while LNG are looking to deny them. The trade in junglers, the former teammates, the rivalries, they're all here on the table. And for LNG, they have to step up here in Game 4.
And for Weibo, they just got to keep doing what they're doing. Get the mojo, play the underdog card, and somehow come out on top again. No one expected them to beat LNG in the playoffs, nor Top Esports. Obviously, they lost to BLG in the end, but then they beat JDG in the qualifiers. Everyone thought Weibo wouldn't even make it here to Worlds, and on the back of a player like Xiahu, who has now tied the second most wins at Worlds, alongside Deft, and the second place kills across Worlds and MSI, having passed Caps for that honor. I think a lot of people, you know, you overlook Xiahu because sometimes he can be a bit quiet. In summer, he was quiet until the playoffs came around. But this man is a man you doubt at your peril.
I mean, I completely agree. It's crazy to realize the accolades that he does have domestically and internationally. And very rarely do people put him as best mid laner all time alongside that of FLICKR. Because it's hard to, it's understandable.
Because he hasn't got what they truly covet, the World Championship.
Yep.
And so here, this run so incredibly important to Xiahu because it was a rough summer for him. It's a rough year, so if they're able to keep this streak alive, these Weibo miracle runs that people have, honestly, you should be getting used to these by now. Last year Worlds, in playoffs like you're mentioning, see if Weibo can keep the magic alive.
Because it truly is magic for them. For LNG, came in to this series as the favorites, were in playoffs as the favorites, and now Zika and Scout trying to get some experience between the two of them to deal with the push that happens from Light and Crisp on the top side.
Xiahu leveraging his passive beautifully, bullying LNG's solo laners out of this lane, but they get the push. That's what they wanted. Level 2 secured, the TP's gonna come through. LNG, they have 3 members on the bot side.
It's gonna be a dive.
He doesn't have level 3 just yet. No, it's not. The wave is too thin, and they decided to call it off.
Yeah, they know Crisp is on the way. Crisp acquired his level 2 already in that mid 2v2 that we were watching, and so they are not going to make the mistake of trying to force the dive here. Just answer on the opposite side with the teleport.
Scout getting caught out here. Xiahu trying to put the damage down, and once again, we see Scout having to burn his flash early in the Yone versus Aurora matchup.
I mean, it's a difficult matchup for the Yone. He's done a good job so far, but the bigger situation to acknowledge in this swap is that Zika was much later on the TP than Breathe was, meaning he's a full level down right now. And he also, I mean, he's not at risk of getting dived, of course. He's isolated against Light Ezreal, but Breathe on the Jax, in a very comfortable spot here in the early game.
And honestly, Weibo pretty happy with Light getting solo experience up on this top side and has a pretty good time up here, constantly shoving in. Meanwhile, the defense for them on the opposite side of the map also going pretty well. I really want to highlight Tarzan though, because it's these small things where he takes a very efficient side path, getting that flash out of Scout so early on. I mean, now he gets kind of...
He's able to cover Light, and that's kind of the important thing here. Zika was looking for something onto Light there, couldn't find it.
Yeah, just slightly down on experience here. So he's 1 level down to the Sejuani, has to give over control of the river, just continually throw out those saplings though.
Is 2 camps down, and it looks like Weiwei should be able to path down towards the bottom side to get himself a double scuttle. Tarzan will go back towards his red. Weiwei might be able to gank Xiahu in the mid lane here. At least burning his flash would be huge. Scout trying to build up that Mortal still. Q3, knock up on Xiahu, has to flash away.
Good presence there from Weiwei to, at the very least, get that flash out from him. Scout's being up earlier means that there's potentially a play once Scout gets level 6 in the mid lane. Light, though, keeping his pressure on the top side as Weibo's top support combo looks to push out that bot wave. Zika with no TP, he's going to lose a decent amount of farm. Maybe Hung can hold the wave. Nicely done.
You can see Weiwei actually covering for this as well. If Crisp does go in, or Breathe does as well, Weiwei can dive forward. Hung's going to try and delay for as long as possible. It's taking about half his health to do it, but this is really well played by the LNG support. 1 minion down, will be 2, 3. Well, he gets the experience from the third, does Zika. He'll be very happy with Hung's sacrifice of HP to keep his minions around.
Yeah, every little bit of experience really matters once they match back up. If he's going to go toe-to-toe with Breathe once again, you assume that Breathe on the reset will head back down there. Yep. So it should be that. Meanwhile, Tarzan on the Maokai is on bottom half of the map right now as well. So much pressure here, though, towards mid lane. I wonder if they'll just cross, because Crisp on his reset is coming to hover.
Scout in a really difficult position right now just because he used his TP earlier once that initial play came through, and then Xiahu TP's back with full HP.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a very difficult lane situation for him, and it's made worse by the fact that Crisp is now hovering around mid, and Scout, it's a risky wave to stay for.
Really wants to get that level 6 if he can.
Has to call Hung over to help him so he can take the wave at tower.
But overall, a very quiet early game.
Yeah, where's my level 1?
Yeah.
Where's my 5v5, Betty?
So far in this series, it's been a bloody affair. These teams have been no strangers to getting down and dirty. Normally teams take time to warm up on stage. Feels like they've just been cooling down.
Yeah.
You know?
And it does often happen when you get towards match point in a series like this, right?
It's
Both
true.
teams calm down. You don't want to throw the game level 1 by overstepping, like jumping onto GALA has a level advantage in that top side right now.
Scout has no teleport, so his recall right now, it was not on vision, but LNG are still able to go take first grub, even though they're on the timer where Scout is recalling and then heading bottom side, because they see that Breathe with no teleport on the Jax is still pushing the wave in. That was Smite invested from Weiwei though, so Tarzan should be able to...
Look at Zika.
He's on the flank, but Xiahu's going to come across as well. That ultimate from the Aurora is available. They dive in. Meanwhile, on the bot side, Breathe is just farming minions. You can see Light's already got 1 kill. Between Worlds is a second as Zika falls as well. Weibo find 2, take 2 grubs as well.
A confident play there from Weibo as they're able to collapse with numbers first. Weiwei now isolated, trying to sacrifice. And he will get away with it. Nicely done there. But still, Weibo find 2 kills. They get 2 grubs. And Breathe is finding purchase in the bot side as well.
Yeah, Breathe was pushing that whole time. Had to be answered by Scouts. Goes to invade as well before getting his recall off. And that ward that he just dropped here behind Krugs will see the next clear and allow them to continue tracking Weiwei after the reset. We'll track Scout though, getting some turret play money at the very least on the bottom side of the map. It is Yone. You have to be worried about this champion always, but here's the setup.
It was just weird from LNG to decide to keep taking this fight, right? Because your AD carry's nowhere near the battle. You know you don't have TP on your top lane. Yeah, the curtains can open, but already 2 people are dead before anything really happens.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, with GALA there, up in the tower, like Jhin can open up the ultimate, but it's so little, so late, and so much damage. There we go.
Daney with the great reactions all series long. We returned to live, and at the bottom of your screen, if you're an LNG fan, then it's a scary situation to find yourself in.
Red. 400, almost 500 gold lead for Breathe on that Jax, already scaling up towards the Triforce spike. Mid lane as well. Xiaohu's already shown us his Aurora can be so powerful in game 2 here. Continue to do so. Across the board, leads for Weibo, and LNG found a little bit wanting. Weibo will be able to get the Drake as well. So this is 2 grubs, a dragon, 2 kills, almost a 2,000 gold lead, currently sitting about 1.5k their advantage. And really nothing for Weibo so far. They will start scaling up towards first items. You know, Yone on Blade of the Ruin King feels like a much more powerful champ than he does before you get there, but it's still a little bit of a while away. Scout is looking up towards the top side though. Breathe does have flash. He'll walk towards the river to try and get some vision and make sure that he's not being collapsed on.
They're certainly going to have to do something to change the direction of this game. Of course, on next grub spawn, that might be an opportunity for them to do so. Have to have a much better setup for it though. I mean, they do have the summoner spells to do it. Meanwhile, bottom side, Crisp here trying to get that deep vision. Again, Weibo have been so good at replacing their deep vision, allowing them the extra information to set up these plays. And Light here, the bombardment from bottom side, constantly keeping that up.
Doing it blind as well. It doesn't actually have vision around that corner. It can't quite see exactly where Hung is, but still hits him with a Mystic Shot with the True Shot Barrage. Weiwei trying to cover this top side. May look a bit of damage. You can sneak in here. Zika clearing out the minions to make sure that Weiwei can get a little bit further forward. But with Crisp on his way, it may just be cover. Breathe goes in with the Grandmaster's Might, and as soon as I say it, Breathe goes in for the fight. He flashes away. Quickness coming out from Crisp just to dissuade any further advances.
A great punish there from LNG, but Breathe, with his fancy feet, is able to navigate his way out of that situation. Still able to catch that top wave too, so no real damage done aside from losing his flash. Weibo hold on to their lead for now, but a really nice idea there from LNG.
Yeah, the lane gank from Weiwei sneaks in through the side brush with the Sejuani. I mean, this is what they invested their whole draft into. top 3 picks, Renekton, Sejuani, and Yone. You know, so much synergy there. And yet, unable to get any kills with them with the early skirmishing power of the Sejuani. You know, the lane swap, of course, going a long way, but now the second pack of grubs that we have been looking forward to. After the reset here, they'll immediately start it off again.
Engage going in as they look to try and catch out Hung. He'll only land the dredge line onto Tarzan. Hung tries to flash the wall with the Trisha Barrage just going wide. Crisp is going to chase him down towards the bottom side, but LNG won't really care that their support is being chased out by Crisp. The Titans rush for a little shield into the dredge line. Hung still surviving. Crisp has to flash away and Weiwei's on the chase, collapsing in. Crisp still finds him. Crisp trying to dash back to Xiao, who will escape for the moment. The grubs as well. The prize for Weibo. Scout looking for a little bit more up towards the top side. Weiwei now locked up between 2 worlds. And GALA trying to put the damage down onto Xiahu, but he can't hit what you can't see. Xiahu finds another. Scout was unable to find anything on the top side, and Weibo will get 4 grubs.
And now it's just Weibo dominance. They get to their 4 grubs. They're going to grab an extra one. 5 bonus here, and the extra kills. Crisp exerts support dominance, Vedius. Tarzan's able to find the initiation onto Hung. They get the early advantage in the play, and Weibo now with control of the grubs, control of the dragons, and control of the series.
The way that this game is going, it feels like that it's just a matter of time for Weibo. They're playing with such confidence, with clean execution. Xiahu, a player that was so monumental on the Orianna in the previous game, now stepping up once more on the Aurora. But I feel like that you can never afford to underestimate LNG with the direction that the game is going. As long as this Yone is in the game, they still have angles to turn it around.
It's good you put me in check, because right now I am underestimating LNG. Weibo just seem to be surging right now, and they're trying to play off their advantage.
Looking for a little bit more here as Zika steps a little bit too far. Tarzan goes in with the Bramble Smash, but doesn't follow up with a Twisted Advance, gets the Dominus out, and that will time out before Weibo advance for a second dive.
They get the flash, and that's all they wanted. Maybe play for plates as well. The arrival of Weiwei is crucial as the ulti comes through.
Dominus about to time out here. Zika, Glacial Prison hitting, but Xiahu was able to dodge just outside of tower range, and now between 2 worlds. Go Weibo once again. Already Zika down. The rest of Weibo beginning to collapse here as Weiwei and Hung look for a little bit more. Dredge line hitting onto Tarzan, but the curtain call is tanked up by Weibo. GALA trying to join the fray here. Scout still pushing in the top lane. TP coming in by Scout as they look to take the battle underneath the tower. Breathe, locked up for a second. He will fall to the turret as Weibo have found another, but have they overstepped? Scout snap back to reality. LNG only got 1.
The party in the bottom lane is actually going to move over to the mid lane. Tarzan running for his life towards his AD carry, but he gets snared.
To a minion, he got snared just in time. Instead, he goes to Tarzan. And GALA will reload and then put a shot in the back of the tree and find another for LNG.
It's 2 kills for LNG, finally on the board. But the damage that was done was still significant. More plates secured on the bot side of the map, more kills. And this dive from Weibo, the Aurora ultimate coming through, the Malignance proc finishing off Zika, and then Weiwei trying to catch Tarzan isolated, uses the W to try and sidestep CC, but this jungle support combo just doesn't have the damage.
The juggling of the tower aggro there, and then they return for the next part of the dive. They do teleport in Yone, and Hung actually with a nice pullback there onto Breathe, ensure that they get the kill on Jax under tower, and yet still, I feel like Xiahu is the biggest winner once again on this Aurora. Is going to be such a big problem for LNG to deal with later, and he continues to get kills, continues to get richer and richer. Malignance done here, like the ultimates are just going to keep coming.
Xiaohu's just in such a strong spot. He is a 3-0-2 and has been kind of Weibo's player of the series. He's definitely up there in terms of the impact he's had in their games. And now you can see the MasterCard lane economy snapshot is all red for Weibo. They are in prime position to close this out. Would be the first red side win of this series too. They start to crack through these tier 1s. Scout will answer on the top side with one of his own. LNG will get their first Drake, the second of the game.
But look at mid.
Yeah, you've got a Rift Herald as well for Weibo if they want to continue this advance. Light will take the tower. And for the moment, that's all that Weibo wanted.
Weibo with such a dominant start to game 3. for so much of this year. Playoffs in spring, playoffs in summer, the regular season games, it was back and forth. It wasn't until that regional gauntlet that we saw LNG 3-0 Weibo, and the discussion was, well, Weibo literally just came off the back of a final. With time to prepare, with time to focus on the opponent at hand, Weibo have demonstrated a level of play that we didn't get to see from them in the Swiss stage. The question is, can they maintain it? We've already talked about LNG are not a team you can afford to underestimate, and this top side is going to be crucial in allowing them to find an angle back into this game.
I'm going to take a moment to shout out Crisp, as he is on screen right now. He's done so much to get and continue to keep up the deep vision for the team that creates plays. And there's so much talk about 2019 and, you know, Tien returning to Paris. But Crisp, also a world champion, and now he might have to make another play.
Hung looking for the flank here. They jump onto Tarzan first. They'll lock him up for a second. Weibo might lose their jungler before the fight really begins. And that's what's going to happen. Breed tries to dive onto the backline, has the counter-strike. GALA cleanses a moment too early, but gets away from the between worlds. But Breed slams him in the back of the lamppost, and that's another. Hung trying to do everything he can. Breed's doing so much work on the back here. Xiao having to flash away. Breed almost falling, but Crisp dances around and shields his top laner. In the end, Zika will get the kill, but Weibo are not done with him. They'll find another light on a killing spree.
In a 4 versus 5, Weibo turned the fight around. Breathe with unparalleled confidence, dives into the face of LNG and walks away the victors as they get a tier 2 turret as well.
Do you feel that? It's the Way Bros rising up. They are taking control of the entire map now, just demolishing LNG, taking their structures, taking the objectives, taking the team fight.
And keep your eyes on Breathe in the second half of this fight, because it is Tarzan that gets collapsed on. Without that big ulti engage to really follow up on, it doesn't. But look at Breathe, dives into onto GALA, gets the cleanse out. CC the follow-up Aurora ultimate onto 4 members as well to allow Breathe to get that kill onto GALA, who also flashed. Then the 3-man taunt from Crisp. Like this fight has so many highlight reels from the individual players of Weibo that it allows them to win and secure the tier 2.
There's just something about this team. There's something just undeniable about Weibo. When they get in a series that matters, they always come out on top. Made their way through the playoffs. Last year it was their way through Worlds until they finally met up against T1 and were stopped at that final hurdle. Here they're trying to make that run again. I don't think anyone would have put them as a team that would make it to the semi-finals, but right now they're on the cusp of it. The Riftel charging forward. Weibo 5 players strong towards this top side. LNG just hanging on to anything they can.
And the reason people are so surprised, I mean, Xiahu may be a legendary player, but this was not a great year for him. But this game has definitely been great for him, as well as a light here. 3 kills on the Ezreal, the consistent carry for the team. How are you going to get back and put any pressure on that Ezreal? Has the cleanse. LNG here are going to have to craft something spectacular to bring back the momentum of this series and push us to a Game 5.
And what I love about Weibo is when they're on the red side, they said, have your Yone, Scout. Go on, have it. We have a plan ready. They lost Game 2, then they just ran it back in Game 4 and they said, no, have it again. We don't care. We have a plan and we're confident in it, and that plan is paying off. This Aurora from Xiahu is massive. Breathe on the Jax is massive. And this gold lead the Weibo have is pretty damn massive.
5k ahead. Weibo collapsing on this red side jungle. Weiwei looking for something.
Stole that.
Tarzan did manage to steal away the red and gets the hell out of there.
Oh my, that is Weibro energy right there. In the face of 3 members, he steals away the red buff. And Weibo just continuing their dominant presence on the map.
I think we're going to have a moment of calm until this dragon does arrive on the rift. Teleport ready for Xiahu. He catches that last wave up on the top side that Scout was able to push into tower. Going back to base to purchase his Leandries right now, I would believe. Does he have enough gold for it? He does. Huge item here for the next fight.
He's going to be in such a strong position. Scout sitting short right now. Wants to get up towards that stride breaker. Will want to get himself back. Zika looking to try and catch out Breed. Does do so. He's a level down though, and I'm not sure that's a fight he really wants to take for too much longer. Weibo setting up around the Baron. It feels like any fight could be the death knell for LNG, and as much as we talk about the might of Weibo, you have to see the other side. LNG were looking for redemption after getting knocked out in quarters last year. Tarzan was on that team. They never really lived up to the promise that the team could deliver. And here to fall short in a fratricide quarterfinal would be just so disappointing for them as a squad. Have to remember the problems that they had at the start of the tournament as well. Scout maybe not even joining the team until the last few moments, now here with them. And to underperform at the final, well, not quite the final hurdle, but the penultimate one at least would be devastating to say the least.
Yeah. I like that you focus on Tarzan, you know. Last year's World, him and Scout, especially the play in mid lane versus T1 versus FLICKR.
Oh, yeah.
So much was made of that. But this year, on this new team, so big for Tarzan. 10 MVPs during the group stage in summer. And now, one big game in their sights. They have the advantage. They have the setup, control around Baron, the extra gold, plenty of split push power with Breathe's Jax to set up the map in their control, and Light with double summoners on an untouched Ezreal.
A tense situation as LNG must really feel the pressure. With their tournament lives on the line, they're fishing for that play. 2 items finished for Scout. Bear in mind, the farm for Xiahu has not been great this game, and as a result, there is a healthy experience lead for Scout. In the side lane, he is a threat, but Breathe right now is the one keeping him under control. LNG herded into their topside jungle as Vision is slowly suffocated. Weibo encroaching on that territory.
And as much as Scout being strong is important for LNG, you can see him in the top lane right now. GALA is less than a mosquito right now. It's a mortal reminder, and the static shiv is not going to melt anyone, especially when they're ahead of you. You can see Tarzan has the Randuins and the Locket already complete. He can put some damage down, he can get put on the grievous wounds, but really, the fights come down to whether Scout can get onto Light on that backline, whether Xiahu puts down a good between worlds. That Aurora ultimate controls so much space when used correctly. Currently, Xiahu will be dealing with Zika in the bot lane, and Breathe is joining up with his team towards the Baron.
I just love watching Xiahu on the split push too, because he's so careful. Just hovering back there on the Aurora, plenty of disengages, collects the wave while the rest of the team try and control the other half of the map. But LNG just made a strong push. They just dropped these wards over by Baron, and as soon as you say that, Tarzan and Chris move in.
Yeah, Weiwei's going to have to Arctic Assault across, and you can see Crisp immediately reacting to the fact that Scout jumps in with that Mortal Seal. Xiahu now has the Seeker's Arm Guard as well for this next fight. So important that he can jump in and then have that stasis to buy himself a little bit of time to make sure the rest of Weibo can follow up.
Look at this Vision coverage. There's a deep control ward on the top side to allow LNG access to the river at least, but that is a dark river. LNG don't see anything, and Weibo are going to use it once again.
Weibo's Barons have looked odd, but have been exemplary. Scout's going to go win, unbinds his soul, and then jumps back, but Breathe is now going to mark him, and Weibo is still on the Baron as far as we know. Light and Tarzan trying to chip away at it. Light's going to dash back. Crisp going forward as well. Breathe on that front line. Curtains open. Tarzan's in the pit. Breathe gets the stun onto Weiwei. Meanwhile, Zika trying to distract the rest of the team on towards the back. The true shot barrage between worlds. Weiwei has to flash away, but Breathe puts him in his place, and now the dive into the back line by Scout is not enough to take anyone from Weibo down. It's all on Scout and GALA here, you feel, but Weibo aren't giving them a second to breathe. GALA steps in, does nothing with his mortal reminder. Breathe, though, will be taken out by Scout now. Weibo still trying to advance. Crisp can dance his way around the fight. No flashes available to them, apart from on Xiahu, who does have the TP, and LNG are being herded like cattle down towards the bottom side. Scout will stack up the Q3 on the Grump, the TP coming in from Xiahu as well, and Scout is just trying to distract Weibo for as long as possible.
Exactly, Medic. Scout knows that he can win in this skirmish, but he's just being shepherded into Weibo's base. The damage is good enough. The problem for Weibo is they spent a lot of time chasing Scout. The fight, though, we turn our attention to it. Weibo is just drawing LNG in. Kobe's been saying it for the whole series. Zika flashes in with no follow-up. He gets chunked out immediately. Keep your eyes on Scout here. He tries to find a good ulti. Onto 2, but a nice sidestep comes out from Light, and we're back on the Baron.
Scout dead for 25 seconds, does have the TP, but I think LNG might not take the battle around this. Chris able to dodge away with that grand entrance. Weiwei going in for Xiahu, who does have the Between Worlds back up. He's being chased up towards the top side. Between Worlds coming out as well as Breathe dives in for the enemy jungler. And Weiwei, there's no way away. He survives this day. LNG lose the Baron. Weibo secure it. They take the kill as well. And then they can back away afterwards.
Beautiful again from Weibo. They return to the Baron. They force again. And there's plenty of time to rotate over to the Dragon. Baron-empowered recalls means they can reset and run straight over to put themselves to soul point on top of it.
Phenomenal execution once more from Weibo. They knew they overchased, but they also knew that that meant that Scout would just be isolated from the fight. One of the biggest threats gone means that there's no way that Weibo wouldn't win another fight, and Malignant bringing Xiaohu's ultimate back off cooldown, ready for the second fight, was massive as they now find themselves with a 9,000 gold lead.
And about to be on Soul Point 2 for LNG. The light at the end of the tunnel is looking like a pinprick more than anything. No real escape from them for this situation.
Oh no, Medic, the light at the end of the tunnel is 601 with 3 fully completed items.
That's
and they
true.
do not want to get to the end of that tunnel.
For Weibo, as you say, it is all done by that Nexus falling. They are 9,000 gold ahead now. They have this Red Bull Baron power play for the next minute and 40 seconds. They're going to sync up 2 waves. Top and mid are their objectives. Hung will look for something. Hex flash across the wall. Maybe find Xiahu. You've got to, but the Zhonya's is going to have enough space for Xiahu. The depth charge onto Light. He's not got the flash, but has the cleanse, and now here comes Xiahu between worlds once again. Glacial Prism will hit Chris, looking for the quickness on the backline, but now Hung and GALA are left out to dry. GALA trying to do everything he can, but Light just jumps in. They call him Light Yagami for a reason. There's a death note with your name on an LNG. Scout looks for the great seal and manages to turn the fight around. Somehow, Scout is revived, and now Breeze pushing in the bot side. Xiaohu's going to help him push it out. They'll take the inhibitor, but LNG hold on to hope.
Only solo laners are left alive. Scout comes up with a triple here. Still has Yone. That is enough for them to at least get some gold, but it's at the cost still of the split push. Breathe finished off the inhibitor. Let's take another look at the start. Tarzan is the only one kind of exposing himself as target. He allows Light to Arcane Shift away, and then you find yourselves in a situation as LNG where you're really heavily committed towards this Maokai that peels, and as soon as the rest of Weibo come in, you know, Xiahu with the ultimate from Aurora, they get the lead in the team fight. It's only here, Vedius, that the big turnaround from Scout to Q3 into ultimate, and Zika there for the extra damage.
So much gold for Scout. Xiaohu's able to get another kill, but my goodness.
Oh my god.
That was not the reaction.
Light Arcane shifts in, and immediately you turn around and like, oh god. Scout's done it again. And remember game 2, it was a similar situation. Weibo were well in the driver's seat. And then LNG found one team fight, and it all began to swing from there.
All I'll say is that 9k gold lead has gone down. But, a TP flank.
Scout has IE now. Scout's looking for the flank onto Breathe. Tarzan and Chris trying to help out their top laner. Scout jumps forward. Counter-strike coming out. There's the stun. Nature's Grasp being used as well for the root, but Scout's able to avoid it. True Shot Barrage coming out. Scout's down to half HP. He'll dodge away with the Q3. Depth charge as well between worlds. Face sealed onto the backline, but Scout's already down, and Weibo have found the fight they were looking for in the bot side. Scout already dead. GALA walking away, but I think Xiahu will not let him escape. GALA managing to get away for a second. The Mystic Shot just wide, but Breathe comes in with a counter strike, and it's all done by the Nexus falling.
Triple there now for Breathe, and it's Weibo inside the base.
They're just the masters of mojo. Somehow, whenever you doubt them, Weibo will come out on top. Again, the underdog run continues as Weibo will make their way to semis.
An incredible performance from Weibo, defying expectations once more.
Some revenge for regionals coming in with some good prep, with some focus on team fighting, and some Barons, Vedius. Oh, the Barons.
Great Barons from Weibo.
Redemption for Tarzan as well. We're going to hand it over to the analyst desk to break down that series, and what a series it was.
Absolutely never, ever bet against Weibo Gaming. We're going to be setting up for the interview. Tarzan will be spoken to as they get a grand applause here in the Adidas Arena in Paris, because they always put on a show, Emily.
Yeah, and how much it must mean to Tarzan specifically, right? He was on that team with Scout last year, who failed like that LNG roster, goes on to Weibo. We talked about how much these two teams know each other as we see LNG taking their final bow. Congrats to them. But yeah, this Weibo team,
Congrats for what?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Commiserations.
Yeah. But like, congrats to Weibo. Again, this is why, I'm sorry, Chronicler is laughing at me. This is why
you're good.
we had this team coming out. This is the sneaky third seed who wasn't, right? And it just must mean so much to especially Xiahu and Tarzan going forward in this tournament.
And it's yet another reminder that struggle breeds victory, right? Like, how did Weibo look in those series against DK? Like, losing game 1. Against Fnatic, losing game 1. And it doesn't matter.
But listen,
the Weibos persevere.
Adaptability for Weibo was so strong in this series, but even through the Swiss stage. They pick counter dive in the first 3 games, nearly get the 3-0, and then in game 4 are able to steal 2 of the most effective picks in Gnar and Ezreal. And they're just such a clutch team that I love watching them at Worlds.
I love watching them at Worlds too, and I think we're almost ready for the interview. I'm just waiting for the final cue. We of course need Tarzan to come down, I guess, a little bit after that big victory moment, and there is the delay. I was just vamping for no reason.
That's completely fine. And listen, this Xiahu guy.
This guy.
It's going to be a storyline throughout the World Championship.
Oh my God. It's like, he's kind of taking over. Like, Peanut is one of my favorite stories to follow this Worlds, but he's making it, he's taking a claim for it.
Yeah, later on after the interview, we're going to have a list of the milestones that he passed just today, but he's already has the second most international wins of any player. His MSIs have been better than his Worlds. He's not necessarily the standout player, but he's very solid. These last 2 games.
He was sick, no, these last 2 games?
Yeah, well, so I want to talk a little bit, because I have seen this before, right? Weibo just making it to semis, LNG getting taken out in a very decisive best-of-5, and I know tomorrow we got to get Homla against BLG. If BLG
you trembling?
Oh, definitely. But I want to talk about the fact that if BLG make it here again, Weibo have the opportunities.
Yeah.
One of the funniest things in Worlds possible. Because can you imagine if they do it again?
Oh, it's crazy. I can't even. I mean, you had the right idea. I think that feeling was that Weibo should be stronger, and I feel like we talked about this. How these first 2 games, I was like, is this decision-making what we should see in the quarterfinals, right? But I feel like Weibo really redeemed themselves for me in that game 3 and in 4, and that's why they are the ones victorious. They are heading over to the semifinals next week. They get to sit back and relax and watch the other teams as the job is done, just like it was last year. But Tarzan is standing on stage for the Horizon post-game interview with Lauren Wendy.
Weibo Gaming est la première équipe à rejoindre les demi-finales et j'ai Wendy et Tarzan avec moi pour cette interview post-match. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for being with me, Wendy. La première question que je vais avoir pour lui, c'est le match-up contre LNG, ils le connaissent par cœur. Ils les ont joués toute l'année en LPL et la dernière fois, c'est LNG qui en sont venus à bout. Quelle était la différence aujourd'hui pour qu'ils arrivent à venir au bout de LNG? The main difference between today and the past times they faced LNG was the fact that for once and for this time, they came out victorious. What was the difference today, especially in a clutch series like this one?
那首先恭喜你们获得本场比赛的胜利。其实你们和 LNG 也是交手过非常多次。上一次你们的碰面在冒泡赛，他们是击败了你们，但是这一次结果不同，你们获得了胜利。所以说你可能觉得在如此激烈的一场比赛当中，是什么发生了改变，会使得今天有这样的一个结果呢？
今天的话，我们其实没有改的很多吧，就我们打好我们自己，然后之前也是在 APL 的时候打过很多 比赛嘛，所以就没什么。今天就我们打好我们自己，就这样。
So I think maybe for today, there's nothing very special things happened because we're very familiar with each other, and what we need to do is really concentrate and focus on our own stuff. So instead of like having something special, we like to just try our best to showcase ourselves on stage today.
La grande différence et difficulté quand on affronte une équipe qu'on connaît très bien, c'est justement de ne pas se concentrer sur l'adversaire, mais plutôt de se concentrer sur sa propre performance. Et c'est ce qu'ils ont fait aujourd'hui, et c'est pour ça qu'ils ont réussi à venir à bout d'LNG. Mais quand on regarde Weibo, par rapport à la LPL, par rapport au Swiss Stage, c'était une performance bien meilleure et bien plus satisfaisante aujourd'hui qu'ils ont réussi à montrer sur la scène des Worlds. Est-ce qu'il y a une différence dans la façon dont ils ont travaillé? When you look at Weibo in the LPL and in Swiss Stage, considering the fact that they had to fight up until the last moment to get the tickets to quarterfinals, is there anything that they've been working on to be to that level today? And do they feel like they fixed their issues?
其实我们回顾一下 WBG 整个的一个旅程，无论是在 LPL 的比赛当中，还是在瑞士轮，你们都是战至最后一刻才取得了来到这里的门票。所以说，也想问一下，可能在整个过程当中，你们有哪些提升和进步，才能够达到今天的高度？你觉得你们有没有改进队伍的一些问题呢？
就简单一点说的话，我们就改了我们自己的配合上的磨合吧。然后就我们。 今天也进步到了，还学到了东西，所以下场我们还能强。
So I do feel what we did is just to try our best to have a better synergy, and for the whole team, we try to have build an even better teamwork. And also, I must say, from this best of 5, we are still growing. We have learned so many new stuff here. So in the future, WBG will become even more stronger.
Ce n'est que le début pour Weibo, puisqu'ils ont l'intention de devenir plus forts. Ce sur lequel ils ont travaillé aujourd'hui, c'était leur synergie d'équipe, faire en sorte que toute leur stratégie était au point. On a hâte de voir ce que ça va donner pour la suite, étant donné que c'est la première demi-finale de championnat du monde pour Tarzan. It is the first time you reach World Semifinals. How do you feel right now?
Tarzan 选手第一次将要进入到全球总决赛4强的争夺当中，此时此刻有什么样的一些心情吗？
就很开心吧，但是我的目标还没达到，所以就继续加油，继续冲。
Definitely, I'm super happy to be able to qualify to the semifinals, but my goal hasn't been reached yet. So what I need to do is really try my best and keep it up.
Forcément content d'arriver en demi-finale aujourd'hui, mais le travail n'est pas fini. L'objectif, c'est la coupe, l'objectif, c'est le championnat du monde, donc il va continuer de travailler ici. Dernière question, last question for you, Tarzan. You were the first team to play semifinals. You were the first team to play in front of this arena today. How was the experience? How was the atmosphere playing at the center of this stage?
同时也想问到，你们是第一个来这个场馆比赛的战队，所以说也想问一下，整个这场比赛打下来，在这个场馆当中有这么多热情的观众，你们所有见到的一切，你觉得有什么样的一些感受吗？
今天打的时候感受到粉丝们的支持，所以我们。 也很有感觉打比赛了。
While we were playing on stage, I can really feel the support and the cheer from all the fans, and really this buffed me up.
Ce qu'il a dit, c'est... Je pense que vous avez très bien compris ce qu'il a dit. Les fans, vous avez fait un boulot colossal aujourd'hui, et c'était seulement le premier quart de finale. Du bruit pour Tarzan et Weibo, s'il vous plaît. Wendy, Xiahu, thank you so much, Tarzan, for the interview. Et messieurs, de retour à vous.
Moi, je suis pas un monsieur, mais ça va aller. Je suis
Hey, call out!
No, it was, of course, a toss to her colleagues over at the OTP stream. Amazing job, by the way, Laure and Wendy, for that. That is difficult to do. We have to do it here in France. And we are so, so lucky that we have such talented hosts to lead us through those post-game interviews. About the question about the crowd, I also noticed that when Weibo was walking into the arena, it was Tarzan and it was Xiahu who got the biggest cheers from the audience, and I think a lot has to do with kind of these accolades from Xiahu. Maybe also kind of, you know, there was 1 or 2 times where EU was on the good side, you know what I mean? And Tarzan, who has been kind of like an enigma, right? A lot of people's jungle go.
it's mind-boggling to me, even after seeing this, that we were one bad trade deal away from Weibo getting a free 0 here today. Like that is, because again, Jed actually got the rap prediction. We predicted them. I expected them to win, but I thought it was going to be come on, don't call me out when I don't do it. I'm going to feel bad. But specifically like it was in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And instead what we got was a completely different series.
Yeah, and I think the most impressive thing was, right, we saw Tarzan, the Maokai was massive in so many of these fights where they're trying to engage on the Maokai and that doesn't work because you just can't kill him in time.
Don't do it!
And then the rest of the team cleans up. He himself had some really good engages to isolate key members of LNG in some of these fights. And again, I can't understate how much it must mean to him on that LNG team last year, finally being able to make it past quarterfinals, showing up, having a great performance. It's awesome to see.
It's insane. I want to take a look at those coach reactions from Danny.
Yeah,
because
let's go.
That was one, in the last game, one of the best reactions I've ever seen in my life on a cam.
Yeah, I want to see, is this from the very last game?
I think it's all of them.
Because the one that I can't wait
montage.
for was when he thought the game was over, then Scout gets a triple kill and he flies back.
Yeah.
There's also the famous one from Game 3 where everybody was happy except
this is it.
This is it. I mean, he ended up actually winning the series, but when he turns around and sees Scout got 3 kills,
he's like,
he's just,
he's like, no.
And you don't have to be great at Korean to read
let's read what he just said, but that's okay. But I love seeing it. He also jumped on stage. I think he tried to lift up Xiahu, but he didn't in the end. Yeah. Anyways.
You could see how much this means, even if it is an LPL team kill.
Of course.
They can feel how close they are to making it back to this World Final now. They're 3 wins from the final, 6 wins from the championship. They're actually so close they can feel it now.
Yeah, and then we have to return to Xiahu, right? Because they kept opting in on red side to this Aurora Yone trade, trusting in him to be able to bring out the Aurora when his performances have been up and down, right? But he is so accomplished that we have an entire full screen of the milestones he reached in this series just today.
This doesn't even have his MSI
Second place, and these are just Worlds milestones.
Yeah.
Second place in MSI and Worlds kills, second in Worlds games, first in Worlds losses, but that's just because Faker's won so much, and because Xiahu has been here so often, and I think the fact that he actually holds that record as well just lends to his aura. That he's just always around. He's always part of the world story.
No, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things where we talk often about because we are so exposed to our own Western social media and our players that we don't always get the full story. But he's ridiculously funny also on like, is it Doyen, the TikTok out of, out of China with the viral dance, the cat dance in general. And I don't think we can quite grasp kind of, as you say, the aura of Xiahu, because those Chinese Redditors, they also love dunking on him when he isn't doing well.
For sure.
But I hope they're praising him when he is doing well.
I loved what Chovy had to say about that viral TikTok where he was like, wow, he must be a really brave mid laner to be able to do something like that. It was along the lines of that. It was a very funny reaction.
Now, of course, he had a fantastic last 2 games, but I think we also need to talk about Breathe. What a breakout performance he can have here at Worlds. And of course, the Gnar is unbeatable. He is our Oppo player of the series. He's now 6-0 on that pick, Emily, and just, I mean, I'm really excited to see what he's going to do in the semifinals.
Yeah, it also means a lot for Breathe to be here, again, coming on this Weibo team alongside Tarzan for the summer. And yeah, his Gnar has been great. His usage of the Gnar bar, especially when he's entering a lot of these fights, has been great. They were able to put him on the Jax later on, and he has been, I would say, the best Gnar at this event.
Yeah,
like, I don't think he should get that champion again. But to see him step out and have such a great performance is really good for Weibo to be able to rely on him more.
And even though he ended up getting it, I want to give a shout out to really both bot laners. Like we expected to be really good coming in. I think he just showed us what we wanted. Those 2 arrows, I think, were series breaking, as it turns out, particularly the second one. But then Crisp had not had a great tournament, and he really showed up here today.
Yeah. You could keep going.
Well, I just think
I'm going to give it right back to you.
Thank you. The Rakan specifically, I think we're going to see in terms of priority for him remain sky high.
And I'm going to give it right back to you because HLE is playing tomorrow versus BLG.
Yes.
Let's take a look at the bracket for that. How are we feeling?
I am nervous, but I also think that if Humble Life would have just gotten swept in finals, I wouldn't have felt the same way. But yes, Doran and Peanut, who obviously had, even though it was only by a game, still a really rough series last year against BLG when they were on Gen G. I also think that Zika, Viper, and Delight have shown how well they do under pressure, and hopefully that is able to push them ahead, because I think that I still would consider Gen G to be the best team out of the LCK, and we saw them face off against each other, so I think that's warranted. But Humble Life have been the only team all year to actually get close and eventually best them in the LCK.
And it's going to be super interesting tomorrow, right? They are in that T1 position from last year, and the best of 5 versus BLG is going to tell us a lot about if we feel that they have the same capabilities to pull that off.
And if we looked at pre-tournament seeding, that's a Jack quarter.
Yeah.
The #1 seed from the LPL and the LCK in the quarterfinals.
Weibo.
Are you kidding me? And then
Weibo
Weibo's going to be waiting. So,
winner.
like, really, these two teams, in all truth, we're happy to draw each other, generally speaking.
In quarters,
and HLE and BLG are not happy to be drawing each other.
They are not, but hopefully it'll be as close as it was today. Thank you so much for joining us for the first day out of Paris for our quarterfinal. We will, of course, be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye-bye.
Go! Xiahu!
LNG thinking about the dive. Breed dives back in. The damage going down onto Christmas. He's made with dash away. Suppressed on GALA. Will lock him up onto the tower.
Breed finds an engage on the Zika.
Easy enough. Breed just 1v1s him. We talked about how it would be a struggle for Zika. Well, we see it coming up here for Breed. Away from Tarzan, trying to get in with the bandage shots, but he's going to be stunned up with a shield of Daybreak. Trying to flash the Zenith Blade, but can't escape it. Now Zika is on the wrong side of dodge. He still gets one with a lamppost. Still chasing him forward. Out towards the top side. Xiao, who's been brought up by Zika. Kill for Breed. He gets one. Away between worlds, though. Zika continues to dive forward, and light is extinguished. Are you not entertained? As of yet, Chris flashes in. They're looking for more twisted advance. Paranoia on the back line, but the shockwave is absolutely massive. Blast cone out from Weiwei, but he goes the wrong Weiwei indeed. Xiahu takes the kill. Hung dies as well. Meanwhile, Scout is getting chased in by Chris. Scout flashes, but the winter's bite is icy and cold.
Xiao.
Looking for Scout. Doesn't find Scout. He's going to rush forward with the dive immediately on the breeze. Scout on the back line down to half HP. Already GALA's dead. He dived in and he dived forward. An incredible Gnar. Breeze catches LNG out of the air. Face sealed up to the back line. Scout's already down to Weibo. And found the fight they were looking for in the bot side. Scout already dead. GALA walking away, but I think Xiahu will not let him escape. Triple there now for Breeze. And it's Weibo inside the base. They're just the masters of mojo. Somehow, whenever you doubt them, Weibo will come out on top.
This is what you asked for.